Okay, the first thing we're going to cover is the horizontal pan. It's highlighted here in this orange section. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to play this so you can see that there's actually two things working here. There's a camera move and also some layer animation. So let me hit the play button. The most important thing that I like to have also is this little area here, which is basically a moment of rest before the camera actually starts its movement. I find it's kind of nice to just kind of give a little bit of a small section at the beginning and a section at the end. Allow your eyes to take in what it's just seen. Give yourself an opportunity to have some contrast. It doesn't mean you can't just start the action. In this instance, I feel it was kind of nice to give just a little bit of like open space just before the movement. I'm going to basically go through step by step how I actually achieve this horizontal pan and also this layer animation. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off this little dancing man here, which is basically the layer animation. Now, one thing to remember too, all camera moves are going to be shown up at the top of the panel where your keyframes are going to be showing up. And then at the base of the panel is where you're going to have any of your layer animation. Turn this off. So now we have no layer animation. Also going to take this keyframe here and I'm going to delete. Now, it might be a little testy at times, so just work with it. Basically have no camera move. I have no layer animation. This is just a basic shot. Whenever I'm doing any kind of camera move, I tend to try and plan it out a little bit. Doesn't mean you have to be this intricate with everything you do, but for the purposes of time and energy, sometimes it's good to just think about like a camera move you're going to do. Think of a way where you can kind of plan it out a little bit. Right now, I just did a very basic kind of design here. Again, it still needs a little work. What I'm going to do here now is I'm going to turn on my frames here. I have these two rectangle frames here really just to indicate the start and end position of any camera move. And to further kind of back that up, I have these markers here which are on screen. Let me just move this one a little bit more. Now these markers are great because if you double tap on them, you can actually like put specific information. For instance, here I can just say this is my camera start. And then you can also change the color or put further notes here. Maybe on this red one here, I'll double tap. I'll call this one camera stop. And again, you can customize these more. If you ever want to create one, all you need to do is just go into your timeline here and you can right click and actually add a marker anywhere. Delete all markers if you need to as well. But for now, I'm just going to focus on this top marker here, which will be the start and end position for my camera move. To turn the camera on, we're going to have to go over to your toolbar and click on the little camera icon here. You'll notice right now it's not ignited or it's not ready to do any kind of movements just yet because you will need to do a keyframe. So keyframe is just telling the camera where you want to start, and then you'll need one more for where you want it to end. Now I find the most interesting place you can put your keyframes are right here on your timeline, so you can hit this plus button here and lay down the first keyframe. You can also do it over here in your tool properties section. You'll see there's even more tools you can utilize. I find, again, it's just a little more convenient to just have your keyframes set up right off of your timeline here. But again, that's just my personal preference. You notice I have two keyframes set up, so the camera is now ready to move, and you'll see it's now turned to this blue color, which means it's ready for you to actually make your real move here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold down the shift button on my keyboard, and then this little circular node right here, you can just kind of grab this and then gently just kind of pull it towards screen right. What I do is I just try and like put it on top of this little red rectangle here. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then if you take your playhead down here, you can also just wind it back just so you can kind of see that movement. And looks like it's pretty smooth. I'm going to hit the black arrow just to kind of turn the camera off for a second. And then I'm also going to turn off the frame because I technically don't need it anymore. One thing that I prefer is I like being in what's called camera view whenever I'm doing like 2D camera moves. And if you hit this little icon here, this kind of resets your stage area a little bit. Yeah, again, stage view I think is a lot better for the 3D camera or the 3D functions inside of Storyboard Pro. And the camera view is much better for anything that's 2D. Means, again, you're not actually using the 3D camera which I'll go into that as well. But what I want to do here is I want to actually go back to the front, and I'm just going to play this to see if my camera pan was successful. So hit play. And looks like we're looking good. So now that we have our camera pan, I also have another asset in here, which I'll zoom out a little bit. It's actually these little foreground, basically they're kind of like these little booth shapes. Again, like I said, everything here is just really very basic, nothing impressive in terms of design, but it's really just a way where you can show how you can add layer animation to a camera move to kind of create the, I guess, sensation of a parallaxing view. So if you're looking like imagine you're in a car and you're looking outside the window of your car, the clouds in the sky tend to almost be very still, like they're not really moving, but the mountains beneath clouds, have kind of slower movement, and then anything that gets closer to you is going to be moving a lot faster. A lot of times if you look directly at the ground, it's going to be moving so fast it's almost kind of blurry. We're just kind of creating that here in this 2D form to create something that makes it feel a little more realistic. Shape here. You'll notice it's outside of the camera here, so if I turn my frames on here, what I'm going to need to do is I'm actually going to need to animate this booth layer independently of a camera move. So again, just so you know, a camera move or a camera pan or anything, it's not actually interacting with any real assets on screen. It's just filming those assets, and it's basically moving from screen left, screen right, trucking in or trucking out. But when you're actually animating a layer or an asset, that's like directly interacting with something that's drawn on the stage. In order to do that, you're going to go down here to this layer transform. What we're going to try and do is, I'm going to try and maybe just zoom out just a little bit more here. You always want to give yourself enough room to work. I usually turn off my camera mask as well, this being your camera mask, because I actually want to see what I'm doing here. So again, if I turn on my little layer transform here, you'll notice you have to be on the right layer in order to do your camera move here, your layer animation. So if you look at down here where it says L, that's actually your layer, and it says FG underscore booth, which is the correct layer here. And if you just hit the plus icon, actually went a little too far there. What I want to do is I actually want to go on this blue little marker here. This is actually where I want to start my actual layer animation. I'm going to lay down my first keyframe there, and then I'm going to go to the last blue keyframe, last blue marker here, and add my next keyframe. I haven't actually moved anything just yet because I want to have a little more space to see here. So I'm going to go back to my layer transform. Then all I'm going to do is just hold down the shift button, and there's this little middle square node here. I'm just going to go ahead and gently move this outside of the blue frame. If you want, you can grab your playhead and you can actually just kind of wind it back so you can see we have two things happening. I'm going to touch my black arrow key just to kind of turn off the camera or the layer animation. You'll notice too, again, the keyframe and all the animation is on the bottom, so that'll just be a very easy way to differentiate where things are. I'm going to go ahead, start this from the top, and then play it. You notice the foreground elements are moving us a little bit faster than the actual camera movement. Again, just that same theory, as things are closer to you are actually looking like they're moving at a faster rate of speed. I mean, you're basically traveling through space at the same time and distance, but as you're looking out to things, they appear, because of their size and their distance, they appear to be moving slower, but that's actually not the case. I feel this is a really good way where you can kind of just start practicing your camera moves. Again, there's a million different things you can do. You can add 10 different things moving at different rates of speed, and the 3D camera will be able to move all things independently of you actually having to hand animate them. Now, I do like this, but it can be a little tricky to get the desired effect, demo that as well.